Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 504. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. We have a full complement of hosts this week.
Full compliment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I've heard that before, but not out of somebody as young as you.
I just like my young kids speak. Ahoy hoy.
Is that what they say on TikTok?
Yeah, me and the youths and the TikTokers.
Oh, I hate how you just said youths.
The youths.
Oh, that's terrible. I remember when I was young, I hated the term young people.
Mm-hmm.
It just always grated on me. And it doesn't bother me anymore.
Because you're not young anymore, Zach.
I'm sure. I just try to remember how I felt about it and not use it. But when you pluralize youth, ugh. No, thank you.
Youths.
Yeah.
Would you prefer youngsters?
No.
Youngins?
Youngins.
Not from you, James.
Why did you hate it so much? You didn't like being lumped in, or you thought it was like degrading, or what was the issue? I don't understand.
Neither of those.
Okay.
I thought it was just a silly term. It was,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can't say old people because that's ageist, then you can't say young people.
You can't say old people?
You can say old people.
Yeah, you're supposed to say the elderly. Or
no, I don't want.
Advanced.
No
in
elderly.
Age.
I would not say elderly.
I don't think you're supposed to say
I definitely
people.
wouldn't say elderly to like an old person.
What's an old person?
That's exactly. That's why you don't throw around terms like elderly. I mean, that's like
the retired community.
I will.
Well,
I
if they're
will.
not retired.
I will be upset the day somebody refers to me as elderly. I will be like,
James, when do you think that'll happen?
That?
How old will you be the first time?
Hopefully not till I'm like 80.
Yeah.
And even then I will be upset that it's said to me.
Would you prefer geriatric?
No, I would not prefer that.
Geriatric is worse.
It's funny though. We were remodeling kitchen down in this is a totally different kitchen than mine, but a kitchen down in Naples, and they were ironically enough installing a countertop, and these guys were having a hard time lifting this countertop and bringing it into the condo that we were remodeling. And my dad was there, right? He's like 77, I think.
So he's almost elderly then.
Sure. But if you said that to him, he would be very upset for sure. He was probably 74 at the time. He's got the white hair, skinny, tall guy. And he offered to help these guys. And they told him no because he was too old. And they didn't want him to get hurt. And that affected him for like a while. Like he still talks about it, about how those guys didn't want him to help them carry in this really heavy countertop. And I that's gonna happen to me someday. Somebody's gonna say, "You're too old. You can't do it anymore." Am I depressing you guys yet?
I work with someone who's, I don't know how old he is. I'll say 65.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a heavy thing, and there's a bunch of guys there. And someone asked him if he could help him pick it up. He's like, I don't lift things.
That's smart.
Like the complete opposite.
I thought it was great.
Sure.
I don't help.
He's given up on lifting things.
Right. I wish.
I don't help friends move couches anymore.
Really?
Oh, yeah. If you call me and say, hey, I got to pick this couch up. Can you help me? Hard pass. That's a no.
You're in your 30s. Come on. You can lift a couch.
I can lift a couch. I don't want to lift a couch. I don't want to navigate through doorways or up stairwells. If you
Kyle, it's so on brand for you.
to say no to lifting couches for friends.
Yeah.
I
will wholeheartedly help any friend that asks me to lift a couch if you want help move from apartment to apartment, I'm your man. I will be there early and stay late.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, I've got this guy named Zach who will help you out. I'll give you his number.
He lives in Florida. Won't be a problem at all.
I help my in-laws. Like when my in-laws need help moving furniture, I'm happy to help them. But
Okay.
yeah, like if you're a friend and you need help moving furniture, find another friend or hire a moving company. Like we're all adults now. Let's
Sure. If you need help moving, unless you're legally bound to Kyle, then he's not interested.
not interested in helping you move. Nope. I have moved on from that part of my life.
The helpful to friends stage. That's awesome. I have heard of someone that like someone asked them to help them move and they said no and then wired them like $200.
Oh, for the
Wow.
moving van. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, out of guilt?
No, just as a like grow up a little bit kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Really?
Hire a mover.
Yeah.
I don't think that's that crazy to like over the course of life ask friends to help you move. That seems...
I am with you 100%, James.
Zach, did you help me move out of this condo the first time I moved out?
I don't think I knew you well enough then for you to ask me.
Okay.
I helped you move into it.
Mo helped me move out of it the first time, and he said it was the best moving experience he's ever had. Because he showed up, like I had a storage space right around the corner.
Yeah.
He showed up. Everything except the furniture had been moved to the living room, and it was all boxed in the same sized boxes and all
It's
labeled
beautiful.
and ready to go. We were done in like an hour and a half.
I love it. That's the dream.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, episode 504, guys. We're here. I enjoyed listening to last week. It was fun hearing you guys talk 10 movies each that I hadn't seen most of them at the time. So it was fun to hear you guys prattle on together. I don't know what the term is.
Yes, what the young people use today. Prattle on.
It was a partial compliment.
Any standouts, James? Anything that sounded interesting to you from that episode?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely not getting to Lamb, and then your dance around conversations, I would say, and differing opinions, like where that movie landed on your respective lists was intriguing to me. And it motivated me to want to see it more, which I had already kind of wanted to see it, but just wasn't getting to it. So definitely that one. But yeah, it's a good listen.
James, I'm excited. Your opinion on this one, if it's lamb or lame.
Lamb or lame.
Wow.
Yep.
This is just like the dad hour of Cinereelists.
What's worse, the dad hour or the bro hour?
Well, I mean, at least the dad hour is true and we can own it. The bro hour is false and we're terrible at it.
Right. That's true. Well, this is a movie podcast. We're definitely going to talk about some movies today. We're going to talk specifically 3 movies that are all new release movies, a relatively new release within the last month or so. And yeah, we're going to go through those. A couple are on streaming, some are in movie theaters. Before we get to those, we got to do a little bit of housekeeping. Just a reminder, there's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Cinereelists, REEL with an S on the end. Find the podcast there and watch it while you listen to us. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Cinereelists. You could leave us an Apple podcast review, 5 stars only. That would help out the podcast quite a bit. You could also send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. Send a comment, a question, a list suggestion, a movie suggestion, any of those kinds of things, and we will read your email and discuss it on the podcast. With that being said, let's jump into the movie goodness. The first movie we're going to talk about this week is a Netflix exclusive Western titled The Harder They Fall. Here's a clip.
You shoot? He did. You miss? All y'all die. You, come out. Take these cuffs. Cuff this man. I'll put 3 in his chest right now. Lessen the trouble.
That was The Harder They Fall, a 2021 American revisionist Western starring Jonathan Majors, Idris Elba, Zazie Beetz, Regina King, Delroy Lindo, Lakeith Stanfield, RJ Seiler, and Dion Cole, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for The Harder They Fall is: when an outlaw discovers his enemy is being released from prison, he reunites his gang to seek revenge in this Western. What did you guys think of The Harder They Fall?
Well, I knew so little about this movie going in.
Okay.
I just knew it was kind of a modern, like, but Western, like a Western set in old times, but with a modern aesthetic. That's all I knew really. With a primarily black cast.
Mhm.
And that's certainly what I got.
Sure.
That's definitely what it is.
Expectations met.
Yeah, for sure. I will say I did quite enjoy this movie with
Okay.
some like serious caveats of
Mhm.
things I did not enjoy. But on the whole, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad it exists. I'd like to see another one. I wish I could tweak it a little bit. And then this could be a movie I could like really fall in love with. But for the most part, I'm happy with what I got. That's my brief. I'll go into specifics after you guys chat about it.
I had the same knowledge of this movie that you did, Zach. It was on my watch list, and then I think the AV Club gave it a bad review, so I took it off my watch list. I'm like, okay, I can skip that one because there's plenty of movies to see. And when you guys brought it back up, went back on the watch list. I watched it, and I really liked this movie. I really enjoyed my time with it. I didn't quite know what to expect, and we can just say it's kind of a brutal movie at times. It's definitely violent, and it lets you know right off the bat it's going to be a brutal and violent movie at times.
Yeah.
And it definitely kept that going. If I was to like compare this movie, I would say take Quentin Tarantino and Spike Lee and mash them together. And that's kind of what you get with The Harder They Fall. Right, with that.
That's apt.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed that modern aesthetic. Like both the Westerns can be kind of drab, and this movie was very colorful and had a lot of cool backgrounds and scenery, but also like the cast using sort of anachronistic dialogue throughout the movie kind of kept me more into the movie with following what's going on. I definitely had some issues to talk about, and I'm sure, Zach, they're similar to yours, but I want to hear what James had to think about this movie first.
Broad thoughts. I hadn't really thought about who to compare it to, and I do agree that you can see some Quentin Tarantino in it, you can see some Spike Lee in it, but it's like the most watered down version of those two guys, for sure. I mean, it's not the best of what those two
No.
guys can put out. It's the worst, most formulaic parts of them, I would say. That's not to say I didn't like The Harder They Fall, but I also don't believe I will remember this movie in the long term in any real way, because it's kind of just a traditional Western with really not much subversion going on short of the casting itself. But like the characters are like pretty well-worn Western traditional roles, and like maybe the only real subversive thing about the movie is the soundtrack, kind of with like the hip hop R&B stuff mixed in, instead of like a traditional Western whistle guitar type score.
Wasn't it
And
more
so
reggae?
there was some reggae and what do they call it?
Dub.
Dub
Is the style.
dub
Yeah.
beats. And I enjoyed that mixture. Like it wasn't distracting. It was that was probably the most interesting thing about the movie to me, was the music and how they replaced that as a traditional element, yet left most of the other stuff, short of the fact that the actors were black. They were still playing very traditional Western roles. And I guess some people might just find that interesting, and it was interesting for a while, but eventually I was kind of like, I kind of wish this was even more subversive, that they went farther with some of these things. And they chose not to. So I enjoyed my time with it, but again, I won't remember it in the long run.
By traditional character archetypes, I think what you're referring to is the fact that there are so many that are like the fastest draw and like super really good shot and that kind of thing, which there certainly is in this movie in spades.
Mhm.
I have 2 points. First one is that is the coolest part of a cowboy story, is like they're so good at what they do and like no one can stop them. And what's interesting about this movie is there's like 7 people that are all like the best gunfighter in the West. You know what I mean? And um at most you see like 2 of those in a movie, you know, but it's just like every character is like the best. Anyways, I do think those characters are like always the coolest ones, so the more the merrier. The second thing is I thought that there were actually some new character types in this film. Like is it Cubby? The Cubby character
Cuffy.
is something I had Covey?
Cuffy.
Cuffy.
Like
Was a
coffee
character
without
I
the,
hadn't seen in a Western before. And so I thought that was something new that they brought to it. But I get what you're saying, James.
Mhm.
I guess
It's
for me, the fact that it had enough subversiveness with the cast, with the music, with the dialogue, it was, definitely like not as violent as Django, or maybe on the level of violence as Django Unchained, but definitely more violent than your standard Western. What that was enough for me to push it past the tropes, because I agree, like the plot is tropey, some of the characters are tropey, and without those other trappings, the colorfulness of it all, it would have just been fine for me. But for me, that was enough to push it over the top.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the tropes. Uh, like that wasn't my issue with the movie. I like tropes. I like
Mhm.
westerns, and I like traditional westerns who play it straight. And I've seen a lot of those, and not many of them stick out. But I still watch them because I enjoy that formula. But the ones that do stick out are the ones that manage to keep the tropes, but also like add on elements that make them memorable, that have a longer tail of memorability. And Slow West does that for me. Movie that gets brought up all the time, or at least I bring up all the time. It's probably the last Western that really did that for me. But like McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Miller? Yeah, Mrs. Miller.
Mrs. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, there's lots of Westerns that on paper, you'll be like, okay, this sounds like every other Western. And then you see it and you're like, oh, nope, they did a bunch of things differently, even within staying within the Western shape. And so even the original Django, I think, is more interesting than like Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, even though Django Unchained throws away some of the tropes and the original Django is very tropey. Anyway, my point is, with this movie, I enjoyed it as I enjoy most Westerns. I even enjoyed the diversions of the music, but I don't think it went far enough past the traditional form, short of having a black cast and different music, for me to actually, for it to have a bigger impact on me than a movie that I enjoyed watching once. Um, I did enjoy when the actors were allowed to go big.
Mhm.
Like Zazie Beetz, when she has that fight with Regina King, that was my favorite fight in the whole movie by far, when those two were going at it. And like they were just uh playing it at 12, I would say, during that fight. Like not only just the editing style and watching these two ladies just really go no holds barred, and they had proven themselves over the course of the movie to mix it up with the best of them, and now they're going at it against each other. And then there's one of the actresses gets the upper hand and then like screams right into the camera. I was like,
Yeah.
this is what I want the whole movie to be like. Every scene in that last 45 minutes should have ended with an exclamation point like that. And it just didn't go there for me. But there are certainly worse Westerns out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, one thing that impressed me about this film was I actually really liked the dialogue quite a bit. There were times where the dialogue got really, really good. Now it was pretty uneven. You know, other times the dialogue was fine, nothing special. It wasn't like watching Brick, where I
Mhm.
felt like every 30 seconds there was some turn of phrase that I thought was clever. But there were like certainly some lines that are like, oh, I like that a lot. Like one of the guys was, you know, a quick draw and he was like super fast and he's like just talking about himself like pridefully or whatever. He's like, I'm lightning with the blam blams. And I thought that was so funny. And just so out of place in a Western, but it worked. And I just really love that a lot. And then the other line that really I thought was so clever, I wrote it down, was at one point this like kind of older, more respectable lawman character is talking to this one bad guy. He's like, go fetch your superior. Or no, he's like, I'd ask you to fetch your superior, but that'd be like asking you to fetch your daddy. It could be anyone. I thought that was
Ooh.
such a clever line.
Sure.
And yeah, a lot of movies don't even attempt things like that. Or if they do, it turns out to be like what was that movie with Elliot Page where you know he's pregnant or he's
Juno.
pregnant?
Juno.
Yeah, Juno. It's like that kind of writing where it's just like way too hip, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This movie wasn't way too hip. It was just fun in the dialogue that had shades of Brick for me. Oh, he's like at one point he's like, "Are you gonna let us go Dred Scott free?"
Yeah, I like the
And
Dred
it's
Scott
like,
free.
yeah,
Just a little drop in
on
there.
yeah, in one sense, it'd be a cheesy line, but the way it's delivered had just this wink and a nod that I really enjoyed enjoyed the dialogue in this movie.
I like that this movie definitely had, I mean, definitely had racial subtext, but it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't trying to like be a statement movie in that sense.
Mhm.
Like they're trying to make like, I want to make a Western with a black cast without calling attention to it through the entire movie.
Well, it wasn't trying to like it wanted to tell a Western, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then it included a lot of subtext because of course that subtext is gonna be
Mhm.
there. But it didn't, you know, try to dip into melodrama or something like
No.
that.
No, but like there's that great moment where they go to the white people town
Yeah.
and it's literally white.
All the buildings are
which
white,
is great.
yeah.
Like and that was the subtext I was enjoying from this movie.
I had a good time with it, but I did feel like it was too long. I know I say that a lot, but on
It-
this one, I mean it for sure. I mean, 2 hours and 20 minutes.
There
Little
we watched
unnecessary.
another long one this week. We'll get into it, but I feel like there's been this trend of movies have been coming in like over 2 hours.
Mhm.
And like, do you have that much story to tell, or are you just trying to tell everything you want to? Like, can editing work? And I do agree this movie was a little on the long side.
I think they could have cut out a character or two, and it would have
Mhm.
been the
Oh,
same
man.
movie.
Yeah. Can I talk about some of my criticisms of the film?
Yes, I
Yeah,
wanna hear.
Number one, there's so many characters in this movie. I don't think I've seen a movie in a long time, and you guys have seen Eternals. I haven't.
Wait until you
And
see
so
Eternals.
Perhaps when I see that, I'll change my mind. But I haven't seen a movie in a long time with that many characters.
Mhm.
They just kept coming.
Mhm.
And it was just like, oh man, a lot of characters here. Too many characters, I would say. But it was fine, but a lot of characters. I thought the CG looked poor. There were several moments, like the CG blood looked really bad to me. The CG money. There's a lot of computer graphics that I thought looked cheap to me.
Yeah,
And then
and some of those shots too, like maybe the CG blood you had to do, but like the CG money, like just don't do the CG part. Like,
Yeah,
who cares?
just blow up money.
Get more money
Yeah.
in there. Yeah.
Or don't do the money. Just have them riding by.
Don't
You know what
do
I
the
mean? With money flowing behind them instead of up to the camera,
Sure.
type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, shoot it like you shot Maverick, and just have real money. Don't have CG money.
Sure. Yeah. That's what I would say to them. Shoot it like they shot Maverick.
I'm really sure the director watched Maverick first and is like, okay, that's the movie I want to make.
Exactly. My biggest criticism of the movie, and it goes to my personal subjective interest in movies, but I found this movie to be often mean-spirited or overly violent in a way that I didn't enjoy. So for me, it kind of revels in the violence, but also like the dark nature of humanity in a way. And it doesn't shy away from that. From the very first scene, it lets you know this is what to expect. And that first scene is brutal in a way that I did not need in my life, and that kind of brutality is revisited throughout the film at different times. And it's just like, I get it, things are awful and people are like this, and this is the story you want to tell, and these are the characters you're setting up, and all that's great. But I'm also just watching significant trauma on screen, and it wasn't fun for me. And I could have enjoyed this film without that level of darkness, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. It
Sure.
was definitely not my favorite part of the movie was the opening, but it did let you know what to expect from here on out.
The opening was my favorite part. I love that scene.
You just like
The
to
best.
see, yeah. You're like, I want more of that.
No, I mean, I figured. I mean, it happens in the first 5 minutes. Can I say what happens in that scene? Because I was
Sure.
under the assumption that certain actors in this were playing certain roles, and it turns that assumption on its head in the first couple minutes. Is that spoiler free enough?
Yeah, you're fine. I don't
Yeah,
mind if you talk about
sure.
it.
I don't even know what you were trying to say there. So
I'm
got
trying to
Idris
say that
Elba.
Idris Elba doesn't play the bad guy all that often, and in this movie he does.
oh yeah,
And I like him in that role. I mean, he doesn't really have much to do in this movie, short of that first scene, the first and the last scene. Most of it, he's kind of like the MacGuffin, really, of the movie. Like,
There-
are we going to get back to this guy, type of thing.
there is a moment kind of in the middle where they're starting to lead you towards a path that Idris Elba might be like an idealist bad guy.
Mhm.
Like they're talking about the territory's going to open up and there's going to be settlers coming and we need to protect our town. Like, oh, okay. So like this is a guy who has not good intentions, but he's trying to protect people. He's just kind of evil about it. And then he says, "So you need to all pay me a lot of money." Like, okay, no, he's just a bad guy.
Mhm.
And
But doesn't he need that money to do what he's talking about?
yes, but he also is not benevolent about getting that money. Like he is fine committing acts of violence.
Totally.
Yeah.
But he's not getting the money to have the money. He's getting it. It's a means to an end for him.
Yes.
And like you said, his ends are, supposedly noble.
Right, but he'll also take the money through force. He's not waiting for people to give him the money. He's basically saying,
Totally.
like, give me this money. Like, he's not Robin Hood, is what I'm trying to say.
He's not.
No. And then my other criticism, and this is, I mean, we talk about this movie as tropes, and tropes are fine, but this is a lazy trope. The Zazie Beetz character towards the middle makes a questionable decision that gets her immediately captured, so she has to be saved. And I thought that whole sequence was just stupid. And it just seemed like they needed a reason to go save like the one female good guy on the team. And it was clunky. And we've seen that so many times in movies. And you think by 2021, we could figure out a better way to handle that or not have to do that trope at all.
I wasn't bothered by it. Zach?
It didn't bother me.
I didn't even note it, really.
Okay. Well, then you were not paying attention.
I was paying attention.
It bothered me.
It's like a thing that happened in the movie. It didn't even. It
The-
didn't
the-
elicit a strong or a negative vibe.
Yeah. The problem is if the bad guys have someone that you can't let die because you care about them too much,
Mhm.
you can never have leverage over them. You will like there never has to be okay, let's talk. Let's work this out. You got to follow my terms or anything like that. They can always just threaten to kill that person and that's the end of it.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
too bad. Oh, I will say, I thought this movie was creatively shot. It was not lazy in its filmmaking, and it kept up the creativity. So even in the last battle, there's this one shot that I thought was really fun where she's shooting up at someone on the roof,
Mhm.
and every time she takes a shot, the camera like does a quick zoom in on her, and then like pushes in when she takes 3 shots, and it was just a very cool visual that I don't think I'd seen before in like a shoot 'em up movie. So I thought it kept up the creativity pretty well.
I like the title sequence too, where
Yeah.
they're in that church and he shoots that guy, but he shoots him like 4 times between the first shot and the guy hitting the ground. And each shot they would like pause the video for a second and like throw a word up. I thought that was very like Tarantino,
Mhm.
City of God, esque type stuff. And I enjoyed it.
Plus, he's literally falling while the title is "The Harder
Right.
They Fall."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were moments where I could see a more memorable movie in here. It just didn't get there for me in the long run. So
I really appreciated a lot of the acting. I like Keith Stanfield. I
Mhm.
liked him. I liked the Blam Blams guy.
I enjoyed seeing some of these people who I've seen in other things get to play in this world and kind of get to lean into tropes
Yeah.
that they're traditionally not allowed to play in those roles. So that was good. Like seeing Regina King in this is like nothing I've ever seen her in, and it was fun to watch her chew scenery.
Yeah.
All right.
This movie
And
also does my favorite credits cast sequence, which I wish every movie would do. And that is they show you at the beginning, they show you a picture of the character with their name and then the actor playing them.
Mhm.
And I love when movies do that, either at the beginning or the end. And I just want every single movie I watch to end with like the the character picture with their name and the actor.
I agree. And I'm going to add to it, if it's based on a true story, I want the side by side of the actor and the
Oh,
real
yeah.
person.
So
Love that.
some of these characters were real people.
Like Pickett.
I know. So the Delroy Lindo character, Bass Reeves, he was an actual black U.S. Marshal in the West. He was probably the one who was most based on truth.
Nice.
But like Nat Love, the Jonathan Majors character, was a real black cowboy. This is not his story. So they seem to like take actual people who were alive during the West period and then use their names to like make a new story. So it's kind of revisionist history in that sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely something that Westerns are almost always a bunch of white cowboys, but 1 in 4 cowboys were black.
Yeah.
You just don't see it except in like Blazing Saddles, where it's maybe not the most PC depiction.
this movie has 2 screenwriters on it. One of them's the director, and the other one is the director of Remember the Titans, which seems weird to me.
Why?
Is
I don't know,
is there
it's
another
just a-
movie he's directed
It's a
besides Remember the
strange
Titans?
link between those 2 movies. I would say that the co-writer of The Harder They Fall was the director of Remember the Titans from the 90s. It's just odd to me. I don't know.
Boaz Yankin.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would have, if you had asked me if there would be a link between this movie and Remember the Titans from the 90s, I would not have gone that direction. For
You're
sure.
like, obviously this movie is written by the director. Couldn't you see it?
Right. All right. Anything else on The Harder They Fall? Or are we ready to letterbox it?
He also did The Punisher.
The
Meaning
Thomas Jane one?
directed it or wrote it?
Wrote it.
All right. What else did he direct?
That's a good question.
This is the Remember the
Thank
Titans
you.
guy, correct?
Yeah.
This is the Remember the Titans guy.
Okay.
Has very
Oh.
little to do with The Harder They Fall, short of being a writer. All right, this is taking far too long. Let's letterbox The Harder They Fall. I gave it a 3.5.
4 stars.
I'll give it 4 stars.
A 3.5 and 2 4 stars, which is actually a pretty good score, I would
Yeah.
say, when averaged out between us. Yeah, 3.5, 2 4s for The Harder They Fall. Let's move on to our next movie of the week. It's a movie titled Lamb, which is in theaters now. Here's a clip. That was Lamb, an Icelandic drama / maybe other things. Directed by Valdemar Johansson, starring Noomi Rapace and a bunch of other people I am not going to list because I will absolutely butcher their names.
You know,
for sure.
I tried one of them. You should try 2.
Sure. Hilmir Snar Gonanansson.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly how I said it. So must be correct.
SN. How do you say that letter that's like an A and an E mixed together?
I don't know.
I said snar, but I doubt that is correct.
Maybe snarb, like you have the R roll into it.
Snar
Snarb.
could be. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Lamb is: a childless couple, Maria and Ingvar, discover a mysterious newborn on their farm in Iceland. The unexpected prospect of family life brings them much joy before ultimately destroying them. Oh, spoiler alert. Jeez. Harsh. Give us the beginning, the middle, and the end, why don't you?
I mean, you can do that. That's very Shakespearean. Romeo and
Sure.
Juliet, you know it's not going to end well at the very beginning.
But does
Yeah.
the plot synopsis say, by the way, they commit suicide? One of them
Whoa,
commits suicide, and
believe
the other
that.
one
Also commits
mean-
suicide.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, don't the fates? I don't remember.
If you were trying
Doth
to
with their
describe
death
Romeo
bury
and
their
Juliet to
parents'
somebody,
strife.
Wait, did you just quote Shakespeare, Zach?
Yeah.
my God.
The prologue says, "Doth with their death bury their parents' strife."
There we go. Doth with their death, their parents' strife is buried. Tells you right there.
so Shakespeare was the ultimate spoiler.
Yeah.
I think there was a different take on storytelling hundreds of years ago, and maybe it was less about the plot and more about the journey, or less about the destination, more about the journey.
Well, plus he either wrote comedies or tragedies, and
Yeah.
in the tragedies, everyone dies at the end. That's how the tragedies end, and the comedies, no one dies at the end.
Everyone gets married at
That's
the end
how
of
you
the
know.
comedies.
Yeah.
All right. So Lamb.
Is Lamb Shakespearean, James?
I don't know. Do you think it is?
No,
No.
I don't know that much about Shakespeare, to be very blunt.
you can't just quote it offhand.
No, I cannot just quote it offhand. That's for sure.
Come on, you all know Romeo and Juliet.
I know that. Yeah, because I've seen the movies. Okay. So Lamb, this is a A24 movie. It's a quote unquote drama, which it is definitely dramatic, but certainly dips into other genres, I would say. But I actually do think it's mostly a drama. Would
Yeah,
you guys
it's
disagree with
drama.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantasy drama.
Right. How do we set this up spoiler free? Because we're gonna do a spoiler version on this.
I definitely
So-
kind of spoiled some parts of it last week.
Yeah. Kyle and I have mostly talked about this already, so we can quickly recap.
Yeah.
We want to hear your reaction to it, and then we can react to that. But I will say, so I enjoyed Lamb. I found it to be fairly intriguing.
Mhm.
It certainly slow walks its reveals about things. So you just kind of have to accept that we're going for tension, and we're just gonna have to go at the movie's pace because it's not gonna speed things up for us. But I thought all the acting was great. I thought um, the animal acting was phenomenal. I was very impressed by the
Where
animals
did they
in this
get
film.
those sheep from?
Oh my goodness. And I thought it had I enjoyed the way that it intermixed fantasy horror drama with just normal marital relational drama. And somehow this movie, I thought, interwove them in a way where they felt at peace. And I liked that. I was satisfied with where the movie went and ended. It's a movie that I enjoyed more on reflection. So that's a good sign. And I found it fairly enigmatic. But I'm kind of happy this movie exists. Kyle, what's the summary of your thoughts?
Well, I just gotta say that Megan is baking cranberry orange bread right now, and my house smells amazing. It's very distracting.
What is orange bread?
You've had those muffins before. Like it's a cranberry muffin with a little bit orange in there also.
So is it
Orange
okay,
fruit.
So it's primarily what is the dominant flavor?
Primarily
Cranberry?
bread, I imagine.
bread, like muffin
Bread. Oh,
with
okay,
cranberry.
it's muffin with cranberry and orange.
Yeah, I said bread.
Yeah,
You know what a
it's
bread
not
is.
oranges with a hint of
For
bread in it.
Yeah, absolutely. But when I hear fruit and bread, I think of like a banana bread, or like a pumpkin bread, where it's like
Mostly
it's not
bread.
just like it's a flavored bread. I don't really think of like a unflavored bread with fruit in it.
I would say it's a flavored bread. It's got some cranberry orange flavor to the bread itself.
Okay, so if
Aside
I
from the actual
picked out
fruit.
all the cranberries,
Yeah.
is the what's left over have a cranberry flavor to it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because the dough absorbs the flavor of the cranberries.
Just because it absorbs it though, but it's not like mixed in or mushed in or anything.
What do you mean? Like, oh, you
It's
mean
like
this?
a buttery, sugary bread.
It's not. It's not like blended together. Is what you're saying? It's not carrot cake.
Well, so
no, it's not carrot cake.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, when I think of other vegetable and fruit cakes, like banana bread, the bananas are part of the cake.
Mhm.
It's not just
Vegetable
there's
cake?
chunks of banana. Yeah, like a carrot cake or a pumpkin bread,
I guess those are vegetables.
Zucchini bread.
zucchini bread. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Nothing wrong. It sounds delicious.
The cranberries are such a tangent. Sorry, the cranberries are like halved. I'm not sure about the orange situation. I wasn't up there while she was baking it.
There's no way there's orange pieces. I'm sure it's the zest of an orange.
She used 4 oranges, so maybe she zested 4 of them.
Hold on. You think that she has 4 oranges worth of orange chunks in these muffins? There's no way.
You don't know how big this loaf of bread is.
Yeah,
Maybe it's huge.
This is not. It's not a muffin. It's a loaf
And
of bread.
The water content of an orange would not survive the baking process.
Maybe she.
Shriveled husks.
No. Megan is a very accomplished and smart baker. Maybe she compensated for the water content of the oranges in her other liquids in the dough.
So like she didn't add an egg and instead expect the oranges to make it rise. I'm not buying it.
You think the egg is the liquid to bread? That's your binder. All right, lamb. Anyway,
It's your rising age. Okay.
no, that's your yeast.
I don't.
Okay.
There's yeast in this bread. There's yeast in this bread.
Yeah, bread has yeast in it. That's why it rises.
Okay. So this is a bread. I was picturing more of a loaf, like a banana bread is more of a loaf.
Yeah, it's like a cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. What
So
you're
I
saying.
was thinking more of a cake. You're thinking of a bread. So this is a bread, like
I don't
a
know.
brioche.
Megan, as you listen to this, please email the show and explain to all 3 of us what you're baking, and then I will tell everyone how good it tastes next week.
I think she has my address.
Anyway, Lamb.
Kyle, do you remember what you thought about Lamb?
I do remember what I thought about Lamb. I was disappointed by Lamb because it starts with this tension that Zach was talking about, where it does slow roll things. You get these reveals. There is this like level of horror dread being built. It never goes full horror, but that's fine. And then it kind of lets up on that tension and it goes into that more drama side of things we were talking about. And that took me out of it. It brought it back a little bit towards the end. I was happy with the resolution of the movie, but I kind of wish it kept that entire I just wanted that tension and the uneasiness and that sheep staring at you menacingly. Like that's what I wanted from the entire movie.
So
And I got that
basically,
in-
when they revealed the child, that's when you were like, okay,
No, it's when they
expand the cast.
expand the cast and uh, concluded with the mother.
Okay,
That's kind of
Sure.
where the movie turned for me. Yes. Yeah,
Right.
when they brought some other elements in, it
Mhm.
became a different movie. And at that point I was enjoying more that first act of that dread. I think last week I said that I was hoping for something along the lines of It Comes at Night, where you know, you can have this drama, but you also just kind of have this unease underneath the entire thing.
I mean, I think there was certainly unease. It was just a different type, right?
It-
Once it became this marital thing, there was a different type of unease, I thought.
Yeah, but they settled into everything pretty easily in that second act, and even the new character settled in pretty quickly too.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about with their marriage.
Yeah,
Mm.
I maybe the marital tension wasn't enough. I wanted more of that folk horror nature tension.
Why not both? Okay, James, what was your thought on Lamb?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. It's absolutely absurd. I mean, what's going on?
It
in
plays
this-
it so straight.
What's going on in the movie is so absolutely absurd, and yet everybody in the movie is deadly serious about what's happening. And there were times in this movie that aren't really that heightened that I was just like, I can't believe they're doing this. And it worked for me in that way, in that it's just such an odd premise and a specific execution of an odd premise. And I enjoyed that. It almost, I don't think this was intentional, but when I sit down to watch like movies from this part of Europe, they kind of have this very specific dramatic tone to them, and they're shot in similar ways, and kind of the melodrama, or maybe lack of melodrama, feels consistent amongst, these kind of specific European type movies, Northern European. And it kind of felt like a parody of that at times with the visual versus what was going on. I'm not sure
Sure.
that's what they were going for, but that's what it kind of felt like at times.
No, they very intentionally with the child actor went for something that was a little on the nose, I think.
Sure. Yeah, and I enjoyed the moment that the movie felt like it was starting to dip into the horror element. It brought it back to just, no, that's not what this movie is going to be about. It's going to be a drama, not a supernatural, horror movie. And it kind of played with the notion of being both. And then at any moment when you started to head too far in away from the drama, like typical relationship drama, it would pull you back in that direction by introducing a new element. And it kind of subversive in that way. And I can't wait to talk about the ending, because I think the
Mhm.
ending's super interesting. And I enjoyed all the performances. None of them are pretty much all of it is pretty low key. There's moments that are heightened, but most of it was low key, what you'd expect from a drama, without this twisty plot element in the middle of it. And the fact that that twisty plot element exists in the middle of it and doesn't completely destroy it as a drama from Iceland is kind of crazy to me. And I enjoyed it in the long run, for sure.
I will say that the trailer does kind of clue you into what's going on, the thing that we're dancing around. So if you're intrigued by
Really?
this, don't watch the trailer at all.
I watched the trailer. I absolutely did not capture that.
Oh, okay. I thought the trailer sort of let you knew what was going on, at least the initial setup.
Sure. Also, 106 minutes. Now that's a movie.
That is, I mean, if we can keep movies under 2 hours and tell a great story, I mean, this was not a great story, but at least it's under 2 hours.
Yeah,
Man.
I also would agree with Kyle. I don't think it's I mean, if you take the twist out of this movie and the interestingness that it gives to the story, it's not a great story. I agree. It's a very basic dramatic plot. Super basic dramatic plot once you take out the weirdness from it. And oddly enough, the weirdness is not what they allow to drive most of the movie.
Oh, I agree. I think if anything, this movie's allegorical. And so this is
Really?
just for sure.
I was
For what?
searching for an
Absolutely.
allegory
Yeah.
or some kind of lesson in it, and I'm not sure I found one. So I'm curious. Maybe that's
Yeah.
spoilery, or do you think we can talk about it without spoiling it? I don't know.
No,
I
we'll
think
talk
we should
about it in
save it for the
spoilers.
spoiler. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I felt the same by the time I got most of the way through. I was like, what is this movie trying to accomplish here? Because I felt like I knew where it was going, and it generally went where it was going, at least in the drama department. It went there.
I have a strong theory about what happens at the end
Okay.
that fits everything together. I
Mhm.
want to present it to you guys and see if that's kind of what was on your mind or not.
Great. Love it.
I'm into it. Yeah. If you're into A24 movies, you could definitely watch this one. It fits in nice. And I think it's a little disturbing, but not like crazy disturbing. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, there's some blood, right? And
Sure.
it's
If you don't like
not,
seeing animals get birthed, then you'll
yeah, yeah.
probably
There's a lot of
don't-
animal birth.
I don't think it's incredibly visually disturbing. It's
unsettling, maybe.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And if you have like a higher than normal fear of like farm animals, you know what I mean? Like some people just don't like being around farm animals. They're scared of them. This movie will scare the pants off of you, I would say. Because
There's some
lots,
heavy breathing sheep just staring you down.
right, for
It's
sure.
great.
This is the scariest sheep movie I've seen yet. No, Silence of the Lambs. Never mind.
Are there any actual lambs shown in Silence of the Lambs?
No, it's a story
They just talk
from-
about it.
from like when she wasn't Jodie Foster's character, like grew up on a farm and
Yeah.
they would hear the lambs being slaughtered.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the silence because they were all dead. So
Yeah, it's one of those moments where the not Antonio Banderas. What was his name?
Anthony Hopkins. It's getting in her head.
Yeah.
sure.
Antonio, that would have been a different movie.
That would have been. I don't know why he came into my mind, but
All right.
You knew what I
Final
meant.
thoughts before we talk spoilers on Lamb.
I mean, I think my final thought is, you guys could be like, I don't know if I disagree with you. I think maybe it was expectation for me. I was expecting a different movie, or I did not care for the change in tone. So just because I didn't like it as much as you did doesn't mean I can't convince you otherwise. It's just sort of, it's very subjective in that sense.
Sure. I do feel like of the three of us, Kyle was oddly the most interested in this. Do you agree with that, Zach? Like,
For sure.
Oh,
Before we
he
saw
brought it up a couple times to talk about it on the podcast.
So
Yeah.
the trailer is crazy. Like
Sure.
it is. I do think the trailer is worth watching. At least if you really want to see the movie, watch it afterwards. But the trailer it's showing you some of the craziness. Like the whole thing is set to the Beach Boys. You're getting that sheep staring at you while the Beach Boys are playing, and you're like, what is this movie going to be? So I think the trailer for me did a disservice because it set up something that was crazier than what I got.
I think the movie is the trailer.
There's no Beach
Sure,
Boys
but
in the
it's
trailer. There's no
but
Beach
it's
Boys in the
leaning
movie.
into the more horror elements than
Yeah,
it is how
and-
much is just a big relationship drama.
right, more the folky stuff and the the man versus nature elements.
Mhm.
Maybe what I could say is if this was a short story that ended with the first act, I would have had a much different opinion, or a short movie
That ended with the first act.
that ended with the mom,
Mhm.
and then you brought in the ending.
And you thought that would have you would have had a better opinion of it.
Yes, as a short.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the ending wouldn't make sense at that point.
I think we should get into this. I'll lay out my
Yeah.
movie in the spoilers. Yeah, or my
All
short.
right.
Please.
My final thoughts are I enjoyed it. And I think if you see the trailer and you have a decent threshold for weirdness, absolutely see this.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I think it's good filmmaking. It is solid filmmaking. But I don't recommend it. You weirdos, don't watch Lamb. It's such a strange movie. It's not worth your time, but I liked it.
All right. I gave it a 4.
Me too.
3
Wow.
stars.
All right. Stick around after the podcast for Lamb spoilers. Next up, we've got Eternals, which is the latest MCU movie. I believe it's movie 25 in the long running series.
Wow.
And we're going to get into it right after this clip.
Help! Icarus!
Evening, ladies.
That was Eternals, a 2021 American superhero film directed by Chloe Zhao, starring Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Kumail Nanjiani, Leah McHugh, Brian Tyree Henry, Barry Keoghan, Harish Patel, Kit Harington, Selma Hayek, and Angelina Jolie, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Eternals is: the saga of the Eternals, a race of immortal beings who lived on Earth and shaped its history and civilizations. So, Kyle, it's just me and you, man.
Just us. Zach has not seen this one yet.
Zach has not seen this one, so he is taking a mulligan. He doesn't want to know anything about it. He wants to stay spoiler free. Not that we're going to talk spoilers, but doesn't want to know anything about it other than is he going to like it? Not sure we can answer that for him, but
we can
we're
try.
going to try. So, we've both seen it. What did you do? You want me to start? I normally let you start. I don't care either way.
I'll start, sure.
But okay,
And then
Hit me.
I'll give you my quick breakdown. You can give me yours. We can get into it.
Let's do it.
So yeah, when we did our anticipation for 2021 or our movie roundup, whatever it's called, the Hangover episode,
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned I was kind of over Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Marvel I'm over is human Avengers Marvel. Like I don't care about Spider-Man anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff going on Earth, it's fine by me. I'm still intrigued by space Marvel, and that's what I liked about this movie. Is when this movie gave me that kind of psychedelic space Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say, like, this is an odd movie. It's trying to introduce 10 characters to you, give you their history, give you their purpose, and then build a plot based on that purpose to get to some conclusion. So there's a lot going on in this movie. And this movie is long. We were talking earlier in the episode about, like, why are all these movies we're seeing over 2 hours long? And this one's 2 hours and 40 minutes, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I surprisingly did not find this movie to feel long, though. It felt bloated, but I
Mm-hmm.
never was bored or checking my watch throughout the movie.
Hmm.
If that is an accomplishment right there, I'm not sure how they pulled it off. But the parts I enjoyed the most were the psychedelic space Marvel stuff. When you have, like, these giant, celestial beings which are so powerful they could destroy Earth and the universe as faster than Thanos could. But because they're so powerful, like, it's inconsequential to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're farmers. Like a farmer could destroy a crop of corn, but that's not the purpose. Like, they want things to thrive. They just
Mm-hmm.
have that power. So I thought that was really cool. And some of the space visuals were pretty neat. But I also, Chloe Zhao was hyped up as the director of this movie, and, like, let's bring in another independent. She's just off Nomadland. She's done nothing big before. And aside from a lot of magic hour shots, which we all know my thoughts on that, though I feel like a lot of this was true magic hour and not CG, like Zack Snyder crap.
Sure.
Like, you got to the action sequences, and it's Marvel action. Who's fastest? Who can punch hardest? And it was kind of uninspired. And I'm just sort of done watching ultra powerful things punch other ultra powerful things. Like, there's
Hmm.
no, it's all blunt instrument. No one's thinking. No one's using their skills. They're just saying who can hit this thing harder, who can cut its head off faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm kind of mixed on this movie. There's things I was enjoying more than I thought I would, and there's this, like, other parts of this bloat where I've seen this before, and I'm just seeing new characters with new powers do the same thing I've been seeing for 25 movies now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this is a tough one because I feel like this is the first one. This is the first Marvel movie that I felt like doesn't fit like the mold. Like,
Okay.
Incredible Hulk is also not a great movie, but it's still the Marvel tone,
Mhm.
a Marvel style of storytelling. And um certainly certain Marvel movies like dip their toes in other genres, like combine spy thrillers or whatever. And sometimes the director is the genre. Like, I feel like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies,
Yeah.
the genre, it's still a Marvel movie, but the genre is it's a James Gunn Marvel movie type of thing. And that I think they tried to do with this. It's like it's still a Marvel movie, but it's a Chloe Zhao Marvel movie. She's like, you know, uh dramatic
Mhm.
wonderkind type of thing. And I feel like the James Gunn genre fits with the Marvel aspect far better than the Chloe Zhao ness does.
But
And it's not that this is a bad version of a Marvel movie. It's just exactly what you'd expect a Chloe Zhao version of a Marvel movie to be, and that also means that it's not going to be as fun as all the other Marvel movies. It's just not. It's like it takes itself more seriously. Most of the characters are humorless, with the
Mhm.
exception of Kumail Nanjiani and his sidekick, and they felt like they were in a completely different movie to me, those two characters,
Very much so, yeah.
compared to everybody else.
And Kumail Nanjiani disappeared for the third act.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
It's felt I don't like it felt like there was it felt like there was a reason outside of the plot of the movie. Like, was he not available? Because he pretty much says like, I can't fight this fight, and then he's gone. And
Yeah, I mean, he
it
basically
was
can't
so
choose.
abrupt. Yeah.
Yeah, he can't choose, so he decides not to participate. But I don't think there was any like political or cast reason.
But it didn't I mean, we don't get a chance to know a lot of these characters, so it didn't seem like a character motivation either. It just like
Mm,
I wasn't sure why he wasn't there for the third act, especially I would say he's the comic relief and he's one of the best well known of this cast, name wise.
mhm. Yeah, I mean he's among the most well known, but I mean there is a giant gap between Kumail Nanjiani and Angelina Jolie.
Okay, true.
I
Yeah,
mean there is a
or Selma Hayek.
ginormous
Yeah.
gap. Like guys our age, maybe 10 years younger. We all know Kumail Nanjiani, but like you ask a lot of people in my life who that guy is, and they'd be like, I don't know who that is.
Okay, true.
Whereas Angelina Jolie at this point is very recognizable, I would say. Um, yeah, her and there was another somebody in this
Selma Hayek.
cast, right? Selma Hayek is
Yeah.
another one that I think most people know her on some level. Um, yeah, I other than how long it was, I don't necessarily have a problem with the movie when you just look at this movie as its
Mhm.
own thing. In the context of the rest of the Marvel universe, uh, I saw it the once. I'll never watch this movie again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't fun to watch for me. So that's what I want from Marvel movies is I want them to be fun. I want them to interlock in interesting ways. I don't think this one did that either. I want it to feel like it's a bigger story. Maybe it will down the line when they interlock some of this stuff. Um, so maybe it'll feel like a more important thing than it currently does in the bigger scope of the story. Um, I think in my letterbox review I said like if it wasn't called if it wasn't related to the MCU,
Mhm.
it would just be another over serious
Like
superhero movie.
superhero style genre movie without having
Yeah,
to be Marvel characters. Yeah.
that that that's like half an hour too long. That's what I would think about it.
Yeah. I
It doesn't mean I wasn't entertained through certain parts of it, but overall, not great.
I would agree. This movie doesn't know how it fits into the MCU yet.
Mhm,
And the MCU is running into a problem where, as they delve deeper into the catalog, they're just going into more powerful superheroes.
mhm,
And then always the question comes up, where were you during Thanos? Right? Like Thanos was supposed to be the biggest conflict they had. And now the MCU is like, oh yeah, that's one conflict, but here's this even bigger thing going on. And they have to try and explain, well, why weren't these people in Thanos? Like, why weren't they fighting them? I mean, the same
mhm.
thing kind of happened with Captain Marvel, right?
Yes.
People are asking, like, well, where were you for that? And they always have to explain, well, she was off doing this. And, the Eternals kind of have the same thing. Well, we deal with these matters and not with these matters. And
Mhm,
that just kind of seems convenient, but a corner that the MCU is painting themselves into.
mhm.
And my second point, I can't remember. So
Okay. Well,
respond to that, and I'll come up
they're
with it.
definitely
Yeah.
gonna have to figure out how to explain these things. I mean, they have major things coming into the universe
Mhm.
that just have not been addressed at all because they couldn't before they did the Fox merger. Like Fantastic Four and the X-Men are a ginormous presence in the Marvel universe, and they have just been 100% absent
Yeah.
since day one, since MCU started to become a thing. And so I don't know how you other than just explaining it away like they have so far with
Mhm.
these characters where it's just like one or two sentences and then they move on. I don't know how you um I don't know. Maybe these alternate universe type storylines that they seem to be dancing around. Maybe that's how they're going to get these characters in the universe without having to explain why each and every one of them has been non-existent so far.
Yeah.
I don't know. But and I don't even care really how they do it. I'm excited to see those characters in the universe, and if they find a snappy way to do it, great. But I don't think they have to. I don't even have a real big problem with this movie. I just think the only reason it's notable is because it's an MCU movie. I
Mhm.
think it would just be another uh somewhat misfire if like let's just pretend this was a DC movie, right? Everybody would be bagging on it
Yeah.
because it's overlong and a little melodramatic and the humor is pretty lame and it's more interested in the aesthetic than it is the characterizations. Most of the characters are fairly flat. Like Angelina Jolie's character is the only one that's kind of interesting because she had like a memory issue and stuff like that. But like even the guy that's like dedicated to her, there's just not much there. It's just like, okay, why? Why are you dedicated to her?
Yeah, you never understand,
Like,
like, is it romantic love? Is it, like a fraternal love? Or is it just, we're on the same team? Like, why will you protect this person as their
yeah.
memory, their mind degenerates?
And then you've got Kit Harington, who is dating the main Eternal, but she's dated this other Eternal. And I don't know. Maybe people care about that stuff out of the box, but for me, you got to give me like some reasons more than just like, oh, we dated and now it's awkward.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
That's my ex-boyfriend over there from 500 years ago.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I could live with the humorlessness and the visual the indie aesthetic
Mhm.
they overlaid if it wasn't like 3 hours long. It was so long. It was so long. And by the time they got to the end, it was very cartoony too. And I feel like probably all of these movies are like that. It's just the moment you layered the magic hour indie filter on top of it, it felt very cartoony in that final battle.
Like, you're watching CG creations fight other CG creations.
Yeah. And oddly enough, in that ending, not to discuss it in detail, but the sign language woman, the deaf woman,
Yeah.
the deaf eternal, when she pops back in the movie, I was like, I just realized I'm more interested in the characters that aren't in this movie.
Yeah.
Like like I'm sure if we had gotten what she was up to, I'd be bored by that too. But the fact that there was that character who like I almost was given none, and then like her thing with the Barry Keoghan character, I
Mhm.
was like, I'm way more interested in
Yeah.
why those two are like weirdly flirting out of nowhere than why the two main characters that we've sat with for, an hour and a half are, have a weird love triangle thing. I don't know. I didn't buy everything that they were selling. And it was none of it was like offensively bad. And again, if you took this movie away from all the Marvel stuff, it would just be average.
Mhm.
But it's hard to compare any movie in this world. It's hard to talk about this movie in this world without comparing it to the best of what's been in the world so far. And so maybe there's a version of this movie that can be as fun as Winter Soldier, like as good a spy version as Winter Soldier, um, or as good a team movie as some of the Avengers movies, or as good of like just an absolute logistical masterpiece like Endgame. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But maybe someday we will get really good indie coded drama MCU movie. And this is your average indie drama
Yeah.
MCU movie. Um and that's fine. But again, there's a couple movies in the MCU that I have no great need to ever revisit. This is one of them. I saw it once.
I thought what we see last year, Old Guard, was a
Mhm.
better version of this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there are similarities there now that
Yeah.
you mention it. And Old Guard, I think, would even fit better. I think they could have made this without Chloe Zhao, and it would have been
The
better.
the only time it felt like Chloe Zhao to me was when two characters, usually Gemma Chan and Richard Madden, are talking
Mhm.
to each other and the sun's setting behind them.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, this is a Chloe Zhao movie. And then they go to fight something and okay, this is a Marvel movie where we're punching and shooting lasers again.
hmm
And
Yeah,
it's
I mean, I think I think even the fight scenes though had a little, I don't know. It didn't seem as heightened as action can be in these movies. Um
it felt a little toned down to you.
it's almost like they had like a filter over the top of it that was like um this is more serious than typical.
Hmm.
Not like super serious, but
Yeah.
more serious. And maybe that's just in the setup. I don't know.
I did
But
like that Babylon fight just
which one was
because
that?
uh
Remind me.
that was outside. It was one of the Deviant fights, which the Deviants were a pretty cool character design. Kind of their tendrils, and I thought that was actually pretty neat.
I don't even remember it.
Yeah,
It's been a week.
it's outside the walls of Babylon, which are very colorful, and it's during the day. And very rarely, we still don't see a lot of CG fights during the day because it's harder to hide the flaws.
Mhm.
So to see a daylight CG fight was pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't even remember what the deviants look like. What do they look like?
They were like beasts with like black sinewy muscles and tendrils off of them. They kind of looked like
They
something out
kind of
of
look like
the Thing.
they kind of look like Venom, didn't they?
Yeah, they kind of look like Venom. That's a good way of
Okay.
pointing it. Yep.
I mean, the coolest stuff in the movie, in my opinion, was the cosmic stuff. When you had
Agreed. Yeah.
like the big giant beings
Mhm.
and your main actress like floating above his hand and yeah, the cosmicness of it. But I mean, those were my favorite parts of Doctor Strange as
Yeah.
well. Like I just, whenever they get to spend time in those worlds, it's a break from your typical uh planet Earth type stuff. So I enjoyed that. But there are much better version. I mean, the Eternals are like the Roman gods, right? Like they're even named similar
Yeah, that
to
was
that
kind
kind
of
of
the
stuff.
idea. I think in the 70s, Jack Kirby came with an idea of like, what if the Roman gods were actually superheroes and it's all psychedelic space stuff?
Mhm.
That's why it's Athena and Circe and Ares and whatever their names are.
Yeah, so you can compare it to like Roman god movies, and
Mhm.
there's 100 times better versions of those. So it's like so I don't know. I don't know what they're really what they're going for. I wonder, I never really read Guardians of the Galaxy,
Mhm.
but I wonder if the tone of the comic is similar to what James Gunn did with those movies, or if he just kind of like gave it its own swagger type of thing. Um, like is Star Lord in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies like referencing old music, that type of stuff? I don't know.
I get the impression that like the Groot Rocket Raccoon relationship
Mhm,
was already in Marvel. I
mhm.
don't know if Star Lord was like Chris Pratt or if that's kind of something that James Gunn and Chris Pratt brought to that character.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know either. But I'm curious to know if Chloe Zhao, when she set out to make this movie, was it, or when she was asked to make the movie, from what I understand, they approached her, that she saw it as an opportunity to try to bring art house to the Marvel
Mhm.
universe, or if she saw it as a career opportunity to move up in budget from art house to big budget movies. I do feel like she definitely could have gone the way of like way over art housing it, and I don't
Yeah.
think she did that. Um, There was a balance, even if it wasn't like, even if I feel like there could have been a better balance, there was a balance going on here. Yeah, I think probably my biggest disappointment is just how long it was and how just absolutely humorless the movie was. Because I like Kumail Nanjiani, and I thought I think he works on screen when he's heightened comedy guy. He works on screen in small bites, and he leaves the movie 2/3 of the way through. But anytime he was on screen after the first 5 minutes, I was just like, this is the same joke
You're
over
right.
and over and
He's
over
doing
and
this
over
this
again.
shtick. Yep.
Yeah. Even like his sidekick with the camera. I don't know how many times they made the joke about his sidekick filming something with the camera.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is the same joke. And then some of the other characters occasionally would crack a joke, and it just wasn't funny, even though it was clearly defined as a joke. And I was just like, okay. Which when somebody tells a joke, when a movie is trying to tell jokes and they're not working, you wonder why they're there.
hmm
And they felt like they were there because they have to be there because this is a Marvel movie. I wonder if the movie would have been better served if it just went totally serious. You know what I mean? If it was like
Didn't try and bring
Zack
any humor
Snyder
into
level
it.
seriousness type of thing. Zack Snyder without his, visual wankery, but his serious tone, like keep that and allow Chloe Zhao to do her thing visually. I don't know. I what I'd prefer if you're gonna get somebody like her, a director like her, is I don't know, let's do like a rogue origin story where it's
Mhm.
like one character and it can be like a deep exploration of like a childhood trauma, and then at the end of the movie that person is ready to join the X-Men or something like that. You know what I mean? Like give the character give them one or two characters to really lean in from a dramatic perspective. I feel like Logan did this very well.
What What if Chloe Zhao had directed Black Widow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't make Black Widow like the ginormous 5 set piece movie that it
Mhm.
was. Like I said, with Logan, you have the Wolverine character and the Professor X character, and there's action scenes in that movie, but none of them are the scale of previous Wolverines and certainly not X-Men movies. And it's a little bit of like a character exploration movie with characters that you've already been
Mhm.
5 movies deep with. And it worked very well. It doesn't feel like an indie film, but it has those sensibilities to the style of storytelling. And I think you could absolutely make those types of movies with directors like what I've seen from Chloe Zhao. I'm just not sure a big, huge, I don't know, giant team movie where you have no context for any of the characters as you walk in. You know what I
No.
mean? Like it was like 8 new characters. Not We don't have to spoil because I don't think I could have if I wanted to. The mid-credits scene, like maybe
Which
2
wait,
people in my audience gasped at the mid-credits scene.
which one was the mid-credit scene? Was that with Kit Harington or was that with Angelina Jolie?
I don't remember. All I remember is the button that was on it, which is the introduction of a new character.
Oh, they're on this spaceship, and this guy walks in. He says, "Hey, I'm blah."
Right. And
Yep.
like there was maybe 50 people in my theater and like 2 people knew what was going on. Because they're premiering a new character that wasn't in the movie
Yeah.
that nobody cares about. You know what I mean? Like it's not like that's a character people have been jonesing to see appear on screen. And then on top of that, I was like, why does this matter? Why like what why is this being kept a secret in the mid-credits scene when nobody cares? And then maybe I'm just out of touch, but I didn't even know who the actor was.
Was that? That was my
I
oldie
think that
guess.
might be a
Okay.
spoiler.
That's not a spoiler.
I mean, it's not something that's in any of the advertising.
Okay, well,
or anything that was announced ahead of time.
if you want to make a note, you can bleep that if you want to.
Sure.
All right. um, so I probably mentioned this before. Like when I was a kid in the early '90s, I collected the Skybox Marvel trading cards. So
Sure.
I definitely recognize more names than your average moviegoer. Like I wasn't huge in the comics, so I can't tell you each little bit about them. But like a lot of those names, because I started those cards all the time in 5th grade. I
Mhm.
recognized. And when that Button character came in, even I was like, "Wait, who? Do I know this person? Do I have their card? I don't even know." So
Sure.
we're getting to the point in Marvel where they're really reaching. Like even the Eternals, I knew more about the Celestials from like the cards I had than I did the actual Eternals themselves.
Mhm.
So we're pushing it out there. What?
Yeah, I read comics a lot in
Mhm.
the 90s and knew of the Eternals and didn't care back then, still don't care now. Whereas with Guardians of the Galaxy, heard of them, didn't care back then, they made me care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I think they were headed down this path pre-Fox merger, and hopefully the introduction of recognizable characters can goose what their plans already were, along the path. Because I'm not saying I'd be done with the MCU if it was like a string of Eternals, but they gotta make me care. Like the end of Eternals says the Eternals will return, and I was
Yeah.
like, hopefully in some other movie with
to
with some other characters in it.
to do what exactly?
Yeah, that's the other thing. The movie doesn't really. I mean, I guess it's kind of open ended at the end, but it gives like bigger context for how this affects other parts of the story, or like the Eternals will return in their own movie, or I mean, I guess it's a pretty safe statement to make at the end of any of these Marvel movies at
Right.
this point.
You never know. Like they could be in any movie. They could.
Right.
It's yeah. So
They could be in Avengers 6 like 5 years from now.
man, when like Spider-Man's kid is running the show at this point.
Yeah. I read an article that was interesting that was talking about how Eternals is doing pretty good in China, and
Okay.
that the style of acting is more melodramatic than traditional MCU movies, and that Chinese style of acting it matches closer to
Hmm.
Chinese style of acting than it does American style of acting, and maybe that's why it's doing better than Marvel movies typically do over there.
Yeah, I mean, and this movie was number one the weekend it came out. So regardless what the critical score is of it, it's making money and it's gonna be a success.
Yeah, but what's your definition of success when one of these movies is the top grossing movie of all time? You know what I mean? Like even
Well,
the bad ones need to make very good money.
I mean, we are at in our post. I mean, I can't. We're not quite post COVID, but definitely in
Mhm.
our post COVID has happened movie worlds. The bar is much lower. Like this movie
Sure.
opened to 70 million, which if it had opened to 70 million in August or whatever October of 2019, that would have been a flop.
Mhm.
But now 70 million is a great number, and it's something which they can put onto Disney Plus, and that'll keep people coming back to that. So I you know
Sure.
I don't know when we will get to a point where a movie that has come out post 2020 will unseat Infinity War or Avatar or what Endgame, whatever is number one anymore,
Mhm.
or
Yeah, and
even
I
break
and
the
I
top
don't
10.
I'm not necessarily saying a movie has to do that to be considered a success. And it's hard to even have this conversation when things are so different than they were 10 years ago. Just
Mhm.
like, how do you judge the success of a movie? I'm not sure box office is the marker it used to be, um, because of things like Disney Plus. Like
Mhm.
to Disney, if they make their money back at the theater and then they get to put it on their service and keep people for an extra couple months, to them that's
That's
probably
success. Yeah.
totally successful, and to anybody evaluating whether the movie is a success, probably that's enough. Um just being added to the library is probably enough at this point. But um traditionally evaluating would be just box office, but maybe
Yeah.
that's old way of thinking
I,
when it comes to these types of things.
I think the streaming service is so important now
Mhm.
that it's more of, is this movie good enough and interesting enough to bring people to the streaming service?
Sure.
And I mean, obviously, a lot of the theater, um, a lot of the fact that these are released to theaters are still being driven by talent, by the
Mhm.
the creator report, the creator side of things. But I think for a lot of the studios, I mean, we saw it with HBO Max and their whole 2021 slate. I think a lot of the studios would be fine just putting everything onto a service.
Yeah.
And the big block to them doing that are the creators who expect to get paid for what they're doing and
Mhm.
want to, or expect to have their movie viewed in a certain way. Like you look at Dune, like how much did Dune make its opening weekend?
I don't
Is
know.
that like
30?
30, 40, like 40 million, right?
Yeah. It wasn't a whole lot.
But obviously it got 40 million and plus however many views on HBO Max, where Warner Brothers said, "Hey, good enough, let's make another one."
Mhm.
Where if it had just made 40 million, it would have been considered a flop and there would be no way we got Dune 2.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I read another article, maybe not last week, maybe the week before, where it was some like an economist estimating what Squid Game was worth on Netflix,
Oh wow.
and they were saying that Squid Game added nearly $4 billion to Netflix's bottom line.
Now, does
$4
ad
billion.
does ad mean they got $4 billion in new subscribers, or does that mean that they figured they can they can calculate how much money they made by people staying because of Squid Game, and that equals $4 billion?
It was a calculation of projected um so Netflix shares subscriber stats, but they only share them quarterly. So
Yeah.
they couldn't actually get the actual number, but based on polling, they could figure out how much Squid Game had been talked about and whether people had been signing up or re-signing up. It was actually more about re-sign ups at this
Okay.
point.
People
Like
coming
people
back.
who had
Yeah.
fallen off the service and then they hear about the show and that's the show that gets them to sign back up. Because Netflix at this point is so saturated that they are no longer hawking new signups.
No.
They're hawking retention
Hmm.
and re-signups because there's just only so many people in the world that are ever gonna have a streaming service. So so it's a combination of that, a combination of the free press it got compared to a typical Netflix show,
Hmm.
and whether how many places in the world it was simultaneously number one. So they regularly have hits, right? They regularly release shows, they become number one in the United States and Canada and other English speaking countries, or they release something in Brazil that becomes number one there, or whatever. It's relatively regional by language. Every now and then they have an English speaking thing that can kind of break out in countries that are accepting of, you know, American culture
Mhm.
and are used to consuming that type of media. Whereas Squid Game was number one everywhere at the
Yeah.
same time.
It doesn't matter
And
what
so this
country, what language.
this thing that they paid like $30 million to make, the value they got out of that by
Mhm.
getting a number one show across the globe all at the same time was worth nearly $4 billion.
Wow. Wow.
So that's really their goal. Like they didn't know it, but that's their goal now, is to have shows that they can release and everyone on the planet it can watch it and enjoy it on some level. And that's probably impossible to do by design. I think with Squid Game, it's concept and execution and good timing. But I don't know how we got on this topic from
Oh,
Eternals.
yeah. We were talking. Is Eternals successful?
Oh, right.
And I think in our post-COVID has happened world,
Hard to
Eternals.
right.
It's hard to say, but I would say Eternals will be considered a success financially in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a success financially. I think it's like nearing 300 million globally, so it's going to make its money back.
Yeah.
And Marvel's very good. They're even if it didn't make their money back, Marvel would pretend like it did and just keep going.
Yep.
They're a machine at this point. Yeah, but I don't need another one of these. That's for sure. But I wouldn't mind certain elements of it leaking into other movies.
Yeah. So yeah, I want more space Marvel. I want more of that, weird psychedelic 70s stuff they were going for. Like same with Guardians 2, the Kurt Russell character Ego. That's totally the same thing of like, what if it's a giant planet? And like that's just so out there, but why not? Why not explore that stuff?
Well, X-Men are definitely like a Earthbound thing, but Fantastic Four is going to be a great addition to the Marvel Universe because they can toe the line between galactic and Earthbound stuff.
Right, they can bring in the Silver Surfer, they can fight Doctor Doom, they can bring in Galactus, which
absolutely
I want to see. I want to see Galactus, which is like a celestial but who's evil, like you thought Thanos was bad. Wait till you see a planet-eating bad guy.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to. I also feel like the X-Men has been done well and really well. Like the first iteration was well, and the second iteration was really well when they like mixed the casts. And so I feel like we've gotten that. Whereas with Fantastic Four,
we've yet to get a good one.
I mean, the Jessica Alba. Who's the other guy? What's his name was in it?
Chris Evans.
Yeah, Chris Evans. Like
and,
those are fine.
Vic Mackey from The Shield. What's that guy's
Michael
name?
Chiklis.
Michael Chiklis. And then the fourth guy we all forgot about.
Yeah, the
Mr.
Dr.
Fantastic
Reed.
himself.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't know who played him. Yeah,
but those movies are fine. They are what they are, but they aren't amazing or anything like that. Actually, the Silver Surfer one, the second one, is far better.
Is it really?
The first one.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the Silver Surfer one because didn't focus on the characters from the first one as much. So anyway, final thoughts for Eternals.
Yeah, it's too much movie. We're introducing characters, we're introducing their backstory, we're getting the team back together, we're introducing their purpose, and it's just a lot. It's not done poorly, it's just a lot to do in one movie. It's a lot to care about.
Yeah, I agree. They just they didn't give me enough reason to care, and it was overlong. And if you're gonna make a long movie, at least make it more entertaining. And I think part of the entertainment that was missing was the humor. Like there's just a serious lack of humor in a series of movies that doesn't normally have that problem for me. So that's why it's glaring. And I think if you're into the MCU movies, you should see it because it's one of them, but it's not going to be your favorite. I would bet.
Probably not.
All right. Letterboxd ratings for Eternals. I gave it a 3.
Yeah, I think when I wrote my review, I was 3.5. But as I've sat on it, I'm happy with the 3. I'll say I like this more than Black Widow, but less than Shang-Chi of our Marvel movies of 2021.
Definitely like this less than Shang-Chi.
Yeah,
and I like Black Widow more. Probably because it stuck to the Marvel formula.
Fair enough. Black Widow at least was funny.
Sure. It definitely, Black Widow had its moments of being very derivatively Marvel, probably over derivatively Marvel. And who knew that was one of its strengths compared to Eternals. All right. 2 3s for Eternals. Thank you for listening to this episode 504. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, you can always send us an email, heyguys@cinereelists.com, REEL with an S on the end. You can find us on YouTube, watch the podcast while you listen to it. You can leave us an Apple Podcast review, or you can find us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Cinereelists, or you can find me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd at YoJRB.
You can find me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaubin.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB.
Next week, we will be discussing the Netflix film Red Notice, which is available to stream. Which is available to stream. Which is available to stream right now. It stars The Rock,
On Netflix.
Gal Gadot, and who's the third person? I've already
Ryan
seen it.
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. I'm the one person who's seen it. I can't even remember who's in it. I literally watched it last night. Yeah, so if you have not seen that yet and you want to do a little bit of pre-watching, that's what you should see. Red Notice on Netflix. And looking forward to it. If you've seen the movie and you have a list suggestion, we're looking to pair it with a list. Maybe send it our way. Maybe we'll do it. Regardless, either way, until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Welcome back. This is spoilers for Lamb. If you have not seen the movie Lamb, then don't listen to this unless you don't care. Then listen on.
For people who haven't seen it but don't care and want to hear the spoilers, can I just lay out the basic plot
Sure.
of what happens start to
Yeah,
finish?
please.
Yeah. Do it.
Okay. A lamb is born and it's half human, half lamb. Okay, to the sheep. The sheep has a baby. It's half human, half lamb. The adult mom and dad adopt it as their baby, and you find out later that they had lost their own baby, and so they're basically replacing it with this half lamb, half human hybrid, right? Then there's the husband's brother comes into town. He sees the baby and the lamb baby, and he's like, "Well, this is an abomination. I got to kill it." Then it grows on him, so he doesn't. He flirts with the mom. You kind of get the sense that they've like had a relationship in the past, a secret affair kind of a thing. Anyways, they both get killed by the lamb's father. The half human, half lamb's father shows up. He's a big ram with a human body, and he kills them both. And then that's how it ends, and takes the child with him.
I don't think he kills the wife.
He
Oh
definitely.
no, I mean he kills the two men.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I meant. The wife survives,
Sure.
But now she's
Alone.
childless, husbandless,
husbandless,
affairless.
brother-in-lawless.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that's the basic
I
plot.
think it's important to mention that this couple immediately adopt this child. Like there is no moment of what is this? What should we do? Like they look at it, they look at each other, bam, it's in a crib.
Well,
Pretty
I
much.
mean, yeah. I mean, we don't see it in real time. I imagine they had a conversation.
Well, okay.
It does cut to the crib, but
But I'm just saying, like, if they had that conversation, the movie did not find it important to show them wrestling with should we adopt this lamb
Yes.
human hybrid. So to me, my impression was they had very little thought in what they should do. It was just like, let's take this kid.
Yeah, not
And-
only did they
yeah.
not wrestle with it, like the the mother lamb birthed this half lamb, half human child, and they did not think that was weird at all.
No.
Like they look down and they're just like, "Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, what we should do is raise it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like no freak out. There was no what's going on. Why did this happen? No.
You think the wife at least go to the husband and be like, what did you do?
That was my thought too. I thought the movie was going to go down that road and
Yeah.
it didn't, which I was happy about, but I was
Me
like,
too. I did not
wouldn't
need
you
that
be
movie.
asking questions as to why like this happened?
the fact that they didn't find it more strange, I think, just fits with my allegorical.
All right.
Understanding.
You've
of it.
been so we laid out the
I would love to
plots.
hear yours first, Kyle. I would love to hear yours first.
Okay. So here's my short version. I really liked that the lamb mother was trying to get her child back throughout the movie.
Mhm.
Right? She kept she kept getting out of the barn, showing up at their window, bleeding away. The human mother, Numi Rapace, was like not having it. There's lots of shots of these sheep looking menacingly at the humans. And for me, that movie was setting up of like the lambs know that this hybrid should be with them, that it is an abomination of nature. It should not be with the humans. And I was waiting for the sheep revolt, right? I or something along those lines. Eventually, Numi Rapace like is not having it with this sheep mom anymore and takes her out and shoots her, which I thought was like a great conclusion to that story of, here's like the human mom saying, no, this kid is mine. I'm not going to let the real mother have this. And I will go as far as shooting the sheep. And then you can also introduce the end with the human ram who shows up and then takes back the human anyway. So like it can follow the same arc. I just did not need the brother to show up. I did not need all this home bliss of them just like being in the field and just living like farming and raising the kid. And again, maybe the movie that I wanted. It's my fault because I wanted a different movie in that sense, right? Like it's I know it's unfair to judge the movie for what it's not, but what I was enjoying about that movie was this build of tension, this horror, this dread, these animals staring them down and trying to get back this child back into their circle. And it started going there and then just left that for a while until it finally brought it back at the very end.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, you never really do get like a flock of sheep revolt or anything.
No, like imagine like the sheep like running through the house and just like remember in The Witch when the goat starts attacking the father towards the very end, like things are just kind of going crazy.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
I guess I wanted that ramping. I wanted The Witch in that ramping of tension where things just kind of getting a little crazier as we go.
Mhm.
And although this movie's crazy, it does not really ramp things up like that.
I gotcha. For me, this movie did a clever thing in the middle with what you're talking about, in that in the first half with the mom and the bleeding and the staring at the baby and all that kind of stuff. In the first half, I read it completely different. I thought the animals, that sheep in particular, but all the animals, the dog, thought that this was an abomination of nature and needed to be destroyed.
Okay.
So I didn't read it as they wanted the baby to be with them because it's the mom. I thought it's like the humans are treating this thing like it can survive, but every animal on that farm knows this thing must die. That's how so that was real menace. Like anytime the baby left the house, I'm like, they're gonna kill it. Now later it is revealed, I forget exactly how, like that that's not the case. That what was happening is the mom wants the baby.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a reveal. That was it subverted what I was thinking, and I really enjoyed that the movie did that to me. So I'm glad I was dumb enough to not realize that the animals just wanted it, not
Yeah.
they wanted to destroy it.
No, it was not a reveal to me. Like that was what I was picking up the entire time.
James, what about you? Did you in that first half, did you think the animals were pro lamb baby or want to kill lamb baby?
I didn't pick up that the dog didn't like that the dog wanted to destroy the baby. That's for sure.
It would do the same staring thing the sheep did.
Sure. Yeah. I mean I thought that was more like her perception of what was going on.
Yeah, that too.
Like than it was that the animals actually wanted to, had an opinion on this thing. I believe the mother had an opinion. The mother sheep wanted to be with its baby type of thing. And yeah, and then she, instead of realizing that it's just an animal, not the baby sheep hybrid, but realizing that the mother sheep is just an animal and that's why she wants to be around the baby. She took it as like a personal challenge. You know what I mean? And asserted her dominance over an animal that was pretty harmless in the end. Like she certainly could have let that mother sheep live and it would have been fine. And, even the mother sheep probably would have forgotten about it in time once the
Yeah.
kid was older. But yeah. Is that what's the allegory that you saw?
Can I lay out my reading of the film?
Yeah,
Please.
yeah.
Okay, so this is a film about loss, grief, and how hurt people hurt people.
Mhm.
So this couple, the human couple, had a baby before named Ada, the same name. So they obviously had a real baby and lost it. It died. And then this half human, half lamb baby is born after that, right? And so they adopt it. And basically what they're doing is they're trying to take what's not theirs. This baby is not theirs. It belongs to the sheep and this ram, half human, half ram person, right? So they're taking something that's not theirs out of grief in order to kind of selfishly handle their grief. Okay. So they are like basically trying to heal a wound in their heart from the loss of their baby by replacing it with this new baby. And by doing that, they're not considering how that affects this baby's mother and father, right? So they're going to say, we're hurt, we're grieving, we're going to worry about our healing now, and we're not going to worry about the consequences for other people. And to the point where she like shoots the mom, because I saw the mom sheep as like an Edgar Allan Poe kind of like ticking clock kind of a thing. Like it's what is the poem about the beating heartbeat or something?
The Telltale Heart.
The Pin, the Pendulum, or Telltale Heart. Yeah. It was this constant reminder of conscience and guilt, right? To this mom of that she had stolen this, like she had lost a child, and now the sheep had lost a child, but she's the reason the sheep lost the child. And so it was like this telltale heart, constant reminder of her own guilt in doing to the sheep what had been done to her by like unknown cause of what killed her first baby. So she kills the sheep, right? Then we switch to this more relational drama, right? Where she has her husband, the husband's brother comes into town, and you get the strong sense that they've had a past affair with each other, which is also her taking what is not hers for herself. This kind of selfish, like she has had this relationship with her brother-in-law that is not an appropriate thing for her to have. She's taken something that is not hers. Then you cut to the end of the movie, and the father comes back in the picture to reclaim what is rightfully his, this child, right?
The ram father.
The ram father, yeah. The ram father comes to take back his legitimate child. He's taking back what belongs to him that has been taken by her out of her grief. She did this and kills her husband. And so she is left without any of the things that she had tried to have in her life as a comfort. all these things, it's the result of her own choices, right? So like she lost her husband, but really she lost her husband when she had the affair with the brother-in-law. It's just those consequences were delayed, and she was trying to run from those consequences for as long as possible. But when her losing her husband in death was really her actions are what caused her to lose her husband just years and years ago. It just never happened. And then when she lost the child, it's because it's basically she had stolen this child. She was never meant to have this child. And so the movie ends with her looking straight at the camera with what I took as really a sense of kind of understanding resignation. And for me, what that said is like, she realized that she deserved where she's at right now, that where she's at is the result of her decisions. She made those decisions out of grief and hurt. It was maybe the best she could do at the time, but nothing that happened did she not deserve. And she understood that, and her life is going to look very different. It's going to be sad moving forward, but it's the life that she chose. And that's how I saw that ending. And so the whole lamb baby, I thought, is a like an allegory for like, how do we deal with our grief and how hurt people hurt people.
And we're going to tell it through a lamb human hybrid.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that's the first place I go.
Totally. Good allegory will give you something new. Anyways, what do you think?
I mean, I have no response. I think that's a great allegory, and I'm glad you got that out of it and had that experience versus me who just wanted sheep horror. So
you wanted a pack of lambs, a flock of lambs in the house, cornering them in the dresser, and they're like trying to get away, and they're like brutally violent.
I mean, that's a really cheesy way of applying it, but yes, like I wanted that nature is reclaiming what's its. That's late. Yeah, there it goes. Nature wants to reclaim what it owns.
What's its?
What is its?
What's theirs?
What's theirs? I like it. Yeah. Where you found a much deeper meaning in the movie. I guess I was looking for more that folktale aspect of it. And you were seeing
let me say this. So you were looking for, the movie obviously didn't give you what you wanted.
Yeah.
Do you think the movie was trying to give you what I was saying? Or am I just reading into it?
I can't disagree with your allegory or poke holes in it. I definitely think it holds water.
James, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's as intended as you analyzed it as. Like, I think that might just be the result of dramatic storytelling, unless like somebody's setting out to make that point specifically. But I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see a problem with your theory. I do think it's interesting that it wasn't until you started talking about the sheep man beast that shows up at the end reclaiming his child. Never once since seeing the movie and even thinking about it since did I think that she had done something wrong by taking the kid.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Right away, I felt like they should not have this kid.
I mean, she took it from the mom and then killed the mom.
Yeah.
No, I get it, but it's a sheep. Like the thing that they did wrong was replace a human child with an abomination. You know what I mean? The thing in my brain, the thing that she did wrong was not take the abomination from the mother or make sure that the mythical folk man sheep, you know what I mean? Who they didn't know existed, but if they did, they probably still wouldn't have taken the kid. You know what I mean? Like that part of it wasn't the wrong part of it. The wrong part of it was trying to raise it as a child and use it as a replacement for, you know, the death of their other child.
In my theory, the Ram Man represents inevitability. So he represents like the past is gonna come at you at some point. catch up with you.
And
Does it-
I don't disagree with that. And I also don't disagree with Kyle saying it's nature reclaiming its own. You know what I mean? I think it fits both pretty much.
Doesn't the Ram Man kill the dog? We don't know it's
Yeah.
him, but like there's a
Yeah.
couple scenes where
He
you
does.
know there's something
He, like, strangles
lurking
it.
around. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about how much we have bred livestock.
Mhm.
If you take away,
What?
I know,
I haven't bred
no,
any
I'm just
of
saying,
it. So.
like,
You're still talking about bread?
yeah, it smells so good, guys. um, if you have livestock, which is bred for a specific purpose, I'm talking like cows, sheep, like things that we've taken, like we've bred these to raise them for food, for our human purposes. Aren't we often separating baby animals from their mothers anyway?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, like James, I can see your take on this of her just taking the kid from the mother is not the bad thing she did, but the how she's raising it as her own.
Yeah, and I think it's probably different if you're separating a mother from its baby. I don't want to bum people out who really like animals, but it's like it's different if you separate a mother from its child for a fur reason or a food reason or you know what I mean, any of those types of things versus
Because we see
you're
livestock as a
taking
commodity.
it to raise
Yeah.
it as your own. You know what I mean? Like that. I get that. That's
Like it's being adopted by a rich family. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, like a family who can give it better. But
You know-
but the mother, the original mother, has like no choice in the matter in this case. Yeah, I mean, some people would argue you should never separate an animal from its, youngins, from its youths, and so I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with
has that
but-
movie ever been made where like a poor family have a baby and then it's kidnapped by a wealthy family and they raise it as their own and then the poor dad like hunts him down and then kills everyone?
No, but it sounds great.
Oh. I
Somebody should
mean,
make that movie if it doesn't exist.
it's like kind
Lamb.
of the lamb hunter. So I think James, you're saying this movie is like The Blind Side with ram people.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
That's how I describe it to someone. Like you've seen The Blind Side, right?
Sure. Yeah, oh yeah, it's exactly like The
Just
Blind
replace
Side.
it with sheep.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying at this point.
So the ending, right? It's got a very like kind of cryptic end. What's your
Sure.
interpretation of what is going through her head at the end of this film? Because she's not like rushing to save her husband or find her child. She's more just kind of resigned and staring at the camera. So what's going through her head for you guys?
Did she see? You have to remind me. Did she see
Mm-hmm.
the ram man at the end, or did she just find her dead husband and her missing child?
She doesn't know what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's running through the fields and then she finally finds the husband and he's already dead.
Mhm.
So she anguishedly cries over him until she kind of like stands up and looks at the camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was appropriately dramatic that her husband had just died, and that was the end. You know what I mean, and I took the looking at the camera to be like she's looking for her child, not that she was like,
Oh, you thought she
assuming
was
the
looking for her
child was
kid at the
gone
end.
forever.
I thought she was very explicitly not looking for the child.
I don't know. I mean, you're talking about like seconds between her finding the dead husband, crying over him, saying, "I don't want you to go," or something. I forget her exact words, but she's definitely not excited about him dying. And then the next step would be go look for the sheep daughter.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear a quick story?
Sure.
Sure. Is it about cranberry orange bread?
No, it's about losing a child.
Oh, yes.
I lost my 1-year-old for about 45 seconds at the store the other day. I went to At Home
Okay.
because Kyle had gone there. I never heard of the store before ever.
Oh yeah, you can be like, what's it called? What's at
Yeah.
home? At where?
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
So I went to it. It's kind of a cool store. It's like a Home Depot IKEA.
It's like a TJ Maxx offshoot, one of those.
But it's huge.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm walking around with my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old, and there's just all these different, rows of aisles and stuff like that. Anyways, there's this roller cart full of junk in the middle of the aisle, and I'm helping my daughter with something, and then my son goes past it, down this area that a 1-year-old could walk through, but I couldn't because I'm too big. And so I went around looking for him, and then he wasn't around the aisle when I went around looking for him. And then for about 45 seconds, I probably cover about 8 blocks of aisles
because you're
and
just
I do not see him anywhere. Oh yeah, and I have my 3-year-old, so I have to pick her up and go, kind of thing. And for about 45 seconds, I have no idea where my 1-year-old is, and he's just basically doing this circuitous circle. And then at one point, he walked through the aisle, like through the shelving unit to the next aisle over. And eventually I found him and I was like, is this going to be a thing? This is crazy. About 30 seconds in, I was like, did I just lose my son?
He's going to be the kid that hides in the clothing racks.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's time for a backpack leash.
Never.
I hate. I mean, I don't want to offend people listening, but I hate that.
Oh,
when I see people at theme parks
leash,
with those things, I don't know. I can't deal. It makes me cringe really hard when I see that.
I mean, again, this is going to be judgmental, but to me, it seems like a sign of resignation as a parent. Of it's okay, fine. I'm just going to hold you. We've gone beyond the point where I can reason with this 3-year-old.
Yeah, I don't know. Lamb.
That's my hot take on parenting and leashes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I feel like we talked. This is spoilers, so we're talking plot specifics. But I just the tone is what does it for me. I think the premise is absolutely absurd, and movies like Troll Hunter kind of have. Troll Hunter never took itself as seriously as this movie does, but it struck just enough balance of realist or serious take on it with a little goofiness. This one was way serious with goofiness treated seriously, and I like both of these movies feel like movies from the place they're made, and they just would not be made in the US in the same way.
No,
for sure. They would have gone the other way with it. You would have ended up with the lamb stampede scene had this been made for a US audience. I would assume. I don't know that for sure, but I would assume. And there might be a good movie in that too. But what we got, I enjoyed. The first time, I will admit, the first time I saw the lamb head in a little sweater, I was like, what am I watching? I mean, it's so out there. And it is so out there.
It's just when it's naked, it's disturbing. With its lamb head, it's one hoof, and then it's child body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything,
it's
if the brother kind of breaks the tension a little bit because he kind of has a similar reaction to what you imagine most people watching have, which is just why are we okay with this? You know what I mean? I think I need somebody to explain to me why we're okay with this, because this is not normal.
Yeah. That being said, we're leaning heavily on the lamb part, but this is half human. I mean, it's definitely not just an animal, right? It can walk and hold hands and learn things. It's very human.
I'm gonna say it's a quarter human.
No. It's a quarter lamb.
No, but biologically, the mom is a sheep. So from the mom, it's getting 100% sheep, and the dad is already a hybrid. So the dad is 50-50. So you do the math. This thing should come out 1/4 human, 3/4 sheep.
That would work, Mendel, if we didn't have dominant and recessive genes.
Well, I
I'm
was about to
saying
get
that
into
Ram.
that. He's like,
I think the human genes are going to be more dominant.
it's more dominant. It only expresses on the father's side.
That's what I'm thinking.
I would say the father was more
Wait,
like
do you make a Nazi
man.
reference? Call me Mendel.
No, it wasn't Mendel the guy that did the peas and determined how
Okay,
gene
good.
hereditary works?
Yes, which obviously, like, that whole simple thing of the square is not how it works either. You don't just do big B, little b, and they all get brown eyes.
And I agree with James. The ram was probably not half ram, half human. He was mostly human. Again, mostly human.
Yeah, but the mother is still 100% sheep. So,
That's true.
excluding any recessive genes or dominant genes, you're
Is
still
anyone 100% sheep?
you're still getting 50% from the mother. So no matter as long as the father has any percentage of sheep in him, now you have over 51. You're over half sheep.
Is that how this works? I mean, you seem to be very scientific about this.
You already told me
but something's going on here.
You didn't take AP Bio. You don't even know what the mitochondria is.
I'm sorry I didn't take AP Bio, Kyle.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
I did not expect this conversation would go this direction.
let me educate you, you simpleton.
You didn't know who Mendel was.
Allegories.
AP Bio.
All right.
How'd you do on your AP test?
Oh, I failed it. But I still know the mitochondria. It's the powerhouse of the cell.
Poor James.
Anything else on Lamb before we get out
Do
of
you
here?
who do you recommend it for?
Not my wife.
I mean, if you've recently lost a child, you probably should watch this movie for sure. It's definitely about that, and so if you don't want to live in that world, that's the world they live in. Even if it's the most absurd version of that, of people dealing with that, that's what this is. And if you don't like being unsettled, then this movie will probably do that to you too. And so if you're square, don't watch this movie because it's weird.
And Zach hit on this too. It is slow at first.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure.
Which I feel like, I'm sure not all movies from the region are like that, but a lot of these serious dramas are paced exactly like this movie.
James, what do you think the odds are that there will be a sequel and it'll be just a normal comedy in the vein of What We Do in the Shadows?
Lamb 2.
What do I think the chances are? 2%.
Wow,
okay.
that is a high. So
One in
you're
50.
saying there's a chance.
Sure, I'm not going to say there's no chance at all, but very little chance, I would say.
Would you watch that movie? What They Do in the Shadows comedy sequel with the Ram Dad and the Ram Baby?
If I heard that existed and later heard that it was good, then I would watch it. Yeah, but the fact that it probably won't exist, and if it does, it probably won't be good, means I probably won't ever see that.
Okay.
So,
Make my
okay.
life's mission to get that rights to Lamb, so I can make Lamb 2.
Sure. So Kyle, it's still a 3 on Lamb.
Still a 3. Yep, not gonna move.
I'm still a 4. Zach's still a 4. Not assuming. All right. We're gonna get out of here. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, bye.